Welcome into the 2020 schedule release presented by McGowan's Heating and Air Conditioning. JP Shadrick, John Oehser, Brian Sexton. Starting with the preseason games, 2 road games to start at the Panthers, at the Buccaneers, and then 2 home games on the back end of the preseason against the Redskins and the Falcons. Now on to the regular season. This is where it gets serious, of course. Back-to-back division games to start it off. Home against the Colts on opening day, at the Titans, home on a Thursday night against the Dolphins, and at the Bengals. John, they're coming right out of the gate with division games.
Well, they are. And first of all, I have to say, if you're looking at last year's records, to me, the first part of this season is really crucial. It's backloaded. You've got the Steelers, you've got the Packers, you've got the Ravens late. Specifically, I think you've got to get off to a good start. As you said, you got the Colts, you got the Titans in week 2. This team wants to win the division. They've got that thing on the wall in the stadium, win the division now. The players see it every day. If you're going to do that, you've got to get off to a good start.
Let's move on to the second quarter of the season, and the Jags continue the division run at the Texans in week 5, home against the Lions in week 6, the bye week October 25th, at the Chargers at SoFi Stadium week 8, and then week 9 against the Texans. So 2 times in about a 5-week span. The Houston Texans, Brian, the division rival, twice in that span.
Yeah, this is where I anticipated we would see the division games kind of lumped. And the Texans with Deshaun Watson, they've recrafted their roster a bit. It'll be interesting to see, no big DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to be a different team. So it'll be fun to see the difference. Division champs, Jaguars finished in last place in the division last year. We'll get an early test of how they've improved.
Let's move along to the third quarter of the season, and this is where the Jags see a lot of NFC and AFC North teams. At the Packers at Lambeau, week 10, home against the Steelers on the 22nd of November. Thanksgiving weekend, it's the Cleveland Browns coming to Jacksonville, and then at the Vikings to start December, all teams in the northern divisions, AFC and NFC, John.
Yeah, and if you want tradition out of this schedule, this is certainly it. It's always fun to go to Lambeau. You guys have been there. There's history. But on the field, this is a very difficult stretch. I assume the Browns are going to be improved. I assume the Packers are going to be good. The Vikings, to me, always one of the most underrated teams in the league the last few years, and then the Steelers. So you better have gotten, I guess, rich in the early season against what looks like a little bit of an easier schedule, because I don't think anybody thinks that this part's going to be easy.
And we'll see if they're in the hunt going into the final quarter of the season. If they are, they get the Titans at home December 13th. At the Ravens, they'll be geared up maybe for a playoff run or more by then. And the Bears, December 27th after Christmas. And then they'll start the new year, January 3rd, at the Colts. And, Brian, here we go with if you're in the hunt at this point, you got a good shot.
I can sum this up in one sentence. Let us have something to talk about in December.
That's
right?
right.
I've said before, I don't anticipate that this is a playoff team this year, but I do anticipate they're a team that will make it interesting. If we can talk about if-then that scenario still in the first, second week of December, it'll be a huge victory in this team's progression back towards the playoffs.
The 2020 schedule release is presented by McGowan's Heating and Air Conditioning, keeping you cool from Northeast Florida through Central Florida, home of the free extended warranty. And now we welcome the man who has to navigate this 2020 schedule, head coach Doug Marrone. Coach, they're all tough. It's the NFL. We get that. But what is your initial reaction when you see the schedule come out?
Well, I think, initially having gone through this now for, I guess about 10 years, and then throughout my career as an assistant coach, I really don't put a lot of thought into it prior to the schedule coming out, because you really don't have any control over it. As far as, when, what time you're playing or how they're going to set the teams and where you're going to play them in the year. I don't try to look too forward in that, because, there's, who's playing well, who gets hot, injuries come into play. There's a lot of things. Basically, what I look at is, where the bye week is and just kind of the travel. So, those are the things I look at, and, we got to be ready to play each week. And, the schedule comes out, and, the week, if it's early, you might do some things different. You like it somewhere in the middle, week 6 to 8. But even then, if you have an injury early in the year, you want the bye week early to get your players back. So I think you can mitigate anything that you, however you want to, I guess, represent, what the schedule is. So it is what it is. We're excited that it's out. Now it gives us a chance to start planning.
Doug, did you ever, as a young coach, look at a schedule and say, okay, that stretch could be easier, or did that just go out the window a long time ago? I know coaches look at,
Yeah,
that's what's so tough for fans. They look at this a different way than you guys do.
yeah. I think when I was a younger coach, specifically when I was in the SEC, and I was at Georgia or when I was at Tennessee, just trying to see, where are these paths that, not where it's going to be rough as far as playing, but as far as, okay, this is going to drain, a lot of emotion, what I'm saying, from week to week to week, with whether it's a rivalry or you're going to be on the road or, you might have some young guys that haven't been used to these types of environments in the SEC. So when I was younger, I had that. Then I kind of gradually went to, okay, in the NFL, it was more, well, let's get these young guys who haven't been in the NFL before, let's try to get them acclimated to, getting themselves ready, getting their bodies ready, and giving them kind of a little bit of an insight to what the atmosphere may be like in the stadium and what to expect.
Speaking of that, Coach, I know that guys up north always look to see, when their trip to Miami is. They always hope it's in November and not in September. Guys in the South always hope that their trip to Green Bay is in September and not necessarily the last week of the season. You have a game in Green Bay in the middle of November. That's a game that a lot of people are looking forward to. What are your thoughts about Lambeau Field and getting that game? Do you look at games and when they fall on the schedule for particular locations?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think that, even though, it's our profession and it's our job, I think, for me, it's always a little bit exciting because of the history, of the NFL and the history of Lambeau Field. And, I played up there once early in the year. I think it was like the second week of the season when I was in New Orleans. And I remember, it was very impressive, going up there. Again, I haven't tracked. We'll go back, like you said. I think you do look at that. I know the people who look at that the most are the equipment guys. They're the ones that have to bring, the extra clothing and sideline jackets and all the heaters and, but we'll go out and we'll look. Okay, what's in the past X amount of years, what's the temperature been, around that week. So, just so we're prepared for it. But those are always a little bit tougher. I always, um, thought that, it was easier, at least for me as an offensive lineman, to go from the warm weather to the cold weather than it was for me to go to the cold to the hot. I think it's different for each position group or each person. I think that, sometimes the skill players, it's the opposite, what I'm saying, where they go to, the cold weather. But the one thing, most of these players have played in conditions, somewhere along the line in their career like that. Very, you'll have a small percentage of guys that have never played, a cold weather game. And I think that, one of the things that I've always been taught to emphasize when you play, the cold weather games is the tackling, of making sure. People say, well, your hands and keeping your hands warm and everything. But I think the thing that you see, in cold weather games, whether you're a cold weather team, where you're playing there all the time or not, it's always a little bit tougher to tackle in that. And when I'm talking about cold now, I'm talking about freezing conditions. I'm not talking about we may see as being cold as going out there and putting your heater on in your car, because it's a little chilly. I'm talking about, obviously tough conditions.
I checked, by the way, the average temperature on November 15th in Green Bay is 39 degrees. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Head coach
Let's
Doug
hope you're
Marrone
right.
with it. Head coach Doug Marrone with us. We go from talk of one of the oldest stadiums in the NFL to one of the newest, the new stadium, SoFi Stadium in LA. You're facing the Chargers November 1st, Coach. Anything about, we just talked about Lambeau and the mystique and everything there. How about a brand new stadium right off the construction project?
Yeah, I don't, I've been part of that as a player, opening up a stadium, a brand new stadium, but it was our home stadium. So it was a little bit easy. Part of in Indianapolis when they opened up, when they redid the stadium there, being part of that. I think it's good. I think what I would hope that the fans and the people that are going to listen to this understand is that, we're a little bit no different. I know we have a job to do, but we'll get there early and it'll be like, wow, this is pretty cool. Or, we'll look at it and go through it and, comment on it. I'm talking about just like guys, talking around, a dinner table, hey, what do you think? Oh, this is pretty cool. Oh, look at that. Look at this. It'll be interesting. I know I'll be excited to take a look at it when we go out there. That's probably the only thing in the schedule, I kind of wish that the bye week and the Charger game was flipped, so we played the Chargers, because it's a long travel game, and then, come back and then have the bye week to rest up. Now we'll rest up and we'll go there, and we've got to do a good job as a team recovering on the way back because we have a division opponent the next week, but at least it's at home.
Does your radar go up at all when you see 2 AFC South games right out of the gate?
Well, I think the thing, there's pluses and minuses. I mean, that the one thing that I like is that, we know both teams, but they also know us, so, those things that go into that. So, when it's a chance, an opportunity, to get yourself a lead, and in the division, because we know that, the best way to make the playoffs is obviously to win your division. That's set. So I think, going in there and going early and then finding out about your football team, what I'm saying? Really. I mean, you go through training camp, you may have a vision of what you're going to be and how you're going to play, but until you get out there in the preseason at times, I've been fooled quite a bit by the preseason. I've had great preseasons, haven't played as well. I've had poor preseasons and played well. And, so you want to get everything together, but basically you want to get to that and, those games, and you want a healthy football team that's ready to go.
It's interesting to me that you closed last season with the Colts and you opened the season with the Colts. In 25 previous years of Jaguars football, they've never closed one season and opened the next with the same opponent. That just interested me. I wonder if it interests you at all.
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't think about it until you just brought it up, but I'm always interested in really how they do it. How they put it all together. I know there's like analytics and algorithms and theories. I have no idea, but it just seems like there's a certain at least since I've been here in Jacksonville, we're going to play the Titans around the second week, which we've always had. We're always going to end with, someone in our division most of the time. I think the thing that's a little bit different in the schedule is when you look at those last 6 weeks, or how many weeks really, from November 15th. You have the December 13th game and the January 3rd game against Indy, but sometimes on the back end of it, it looked like last year we were playing more division opponents on the back end. They were trying to match people up, and who they think, what their thoughts were, who's going to be more exciting at that time of year.
Doug, good to see you. Appreciate your time today for this schedule release, and good luck to you here in the next weeks ahead.
Appreciate it, guys. Stay safe.
All right, guys, let's get a quick final thought. About a minute left here. John, I know you're not a huge schedule guy until it's time to really put on the pads and play, but what's your first reaction to this schedule?
Well, I've talked through the show. I think if you're going to get in this thing, you have to start quickly against this schedule. I don't think anybody would look at this logically and think that the back end is easier than the front end. So you've got to start quickly with this bunch.
What do you say, Brian?
I think if you're a contending team, you can look and see how the league has challenged you, right? You can look and see how they can make a schedule play out in a certain way. If you're a team like the Jaguars, who is going to work to get better and improve as the season goes along, just play them week by week by week. I see a couple of difficult stretches, but nothing that would crush them if they are hot early or if they, find some fire late in the season. I think this is just a really steady schedule for a team that wants to be steady themselves.
All right, that'll do it for our coverage. Our thanks to head coach Doug Marrone for joining us. For Brian Sexton and John Oehser, I'm JP Shadrick. And that's it for the 2020 schedule release presented by McGowan. Heating and Air Conditioning.